everyone, and we are assigned to discuss the televised image of jail lessons in controlling the unruly by Don C. Cecil. So we have here the BREGENTE, Gabriel, David, CABAJAR, Christine, CARITAN, Sandy, CENAS, RENABELLE, GETALAN, SHIELA, PASCO, JESRIEL, KHAY, REPAL, FERLYN, Jane, and REPOLLO, Idaho. So for the overview of our discussions, we have first, Cecil's analyze focuses on how televised depictions of jails significantly influence public perceptions of incarceration. We're gonna also tackle the media plays a key role in shaping societal views about prisoners, the functioning of jails, and how they are managed. And the last, TV shows and news reports offer sensationalized or dramatized presentations, often emphasizing control and punishment.
So next, we have the media representation of jails by Don T. Cecil. So we have here the focus on control and inmate portrayal. So let's start with focus on control. So television often represents jails as places where maintaining order is primary concern. This means that most TV shows frequently portray prisons as environments where the primary objective is to prevent chaos and violence. This is often achieved through the use of strict rules, surveillance, and the enforcement of authority figures. So, narrative: chaos and violence are only kept at bay through the strict control of authority figures. This implies that the only way to prevent disorder and unrest within prisons is through the strong and unwavering control of those in power, and this narrative can contribute to certain stereotypes and misconceptions about prisons and their inmates. So we have balik, kanang balik. Balik. Sige, kanasa. Inmate portrayal. So inmates are frequently depicted as unruly, dangerous, and out of control. This highlights a common stereotype portrayed in television shows. This portrayal often reinforces the idea that prisoners are inherently violent and destructive individuals. So these portrayals emphasize their criminality rather than their humanity, reducing them to symbols of disorder. So it suggests that these depictions often focus on the inmates' crimes and their perceived negative qualities rather than acknowledging their individuality and humanity. So this can lead to a reduction on empathy and understanding towards prisoners. So next is this depiction fosters the belief that control through punishment is the only solution to their behavior. So this implies that these portrayals can contribute to the belief that harsh punishment is the only way to manage and control prisoners. So this can influence public opinion and shape policies related to prisons and criminal justice. Next slide, please. So we have here the examples to show the representation of media of jail. So first, we have the orange is the new black.
Yeah, you got some nice titties. Oh, you got them TV titties. Now get the fuck out the way.
I don't give a fuck about none of y'all.
My name is Piper Chapman.
Time to say goodbye.
I love you so much. I carried a suitcase of drug money once, 10 years ago.
Do you know about all this?
She failed to mention the lesbian lover who ran an international drug smuggling ring.
That's all good.
You were a lesbian. At the time.
Smile.
I wasn't ready.
Tough shit.
It's just like the Hamptons, only fucking horrible.
You're leaving in a body bag.
Just getting started, bitch.
So Orange is the New Black is a comedy drama. The plot is a a woman is sent to prison for a drug-related crime. She navigates the challenges of life behind bars, forming friendships and alliances while confronting the harsh realities of incarceration. So here are some key aspects to show the portrayals of jails in that show, in the television show. So first, we have the diversity of inmates. The show features a diverse cast of inmates representing different backgrounds, races, ethnicity, and socioeconomic statuses. So this helps to challenge the stereotype of prisoners as being all the same. So next is exploration of systemic issues. So the show delves into systemic issues within the prison system, such as overcrowding, inadequate healthcare, and racial disparities. So it highlights the challenges faced by both inmates and prison staff. So next is focus on stories. So while the show does depict instances of violence and conflict, it primarily focuses on the personal stories and experiences of the inmates. So this allows the viewers to connect with the characters on a human level and understand their motivations and struggles. So last is the criticism of the system. So the show is critical to the prison system and its policies. It questions the effectiveness of punishment and highlights the need for reform. So next example is the lockup.
You made a mistake!
There's no mistake. Welcome to Gateway, Leone.
I pay my debt to the state, not to me. But you're going to.
So Lockup is an action thriller. So a former professional football player is wrongfully imprisoned and must navigate the brutal world of a maximum security prison. So he forms alliances, fights for survival, and seeks revenge against those who framed him. So here are some key aspects of its media representations of jail. So first, we have the brutal and violent environment. The film depicts a prison environment characterized by extreme violence, intimidation, and constant struggle for survival. So this portrayal can be seen as a reflection of the fear and uncertainty that can exist within prisons. Next is power dynamics and hierarchy. So the films emphasize the power dynamics and hierarchy within prisons, showing how inmates can form alliances and functions to gain control. This highlights the importance of social status and power within the prison environment. So, corruption and brutality of guards. The film also portrays the corruption and brutality of some prison guards who are shown to abuse their power and exploit inmates. This reflects the real-world issues of abuse and mistreatment that can occur within prisons. Last, here is the focus on survival. The film emphasizes the importance of survival within the prison environment, showing how inmates must constantly adapt and survive. So this portrayal can be seen as a reflection of the harsh realities that prisoners face. So kaning mga examples na nag-show kay makakuan tag kanang deeper understanding as sa mga inmates gani na napuso sa deeper understanding sa jail. Kay nay uban na kanapuso na sila kay na frame up nya na say uban kay kanang dili ra jud kana ra ilang life sa prison na sila life gani before ana. So dili sa mawa ilang humanity dito na. So, dira sa mapakita na naay tuan na jay wrong sa atong justice gobyerno. Ano ba yun? So, next slide, please. Next question.
So next is the portrayal of inmates. First, one-dimensional portrayal. So inmates are frequently depicted in simplistic terms, violent, mentally unstable or dangerous without exploring their personal backgrounds or the societal factors that contribute to their incarceration. So it says that the movies or TV shows and news or stories often make inmates like seems like they are bad people who are only dangerous and crazy. So they don't show the real stories of why these people ended up in the prison, like their difficult childhoods or the problem in their communities. Next is dehumanization. So media focus remains on punishing these individuals rather than showing any potential for rehabilitation. This narrative strips inmates of their humanity, reducing them to mere criminals rather than complex individuals. So this statement is saying that the media often makes inmates seems like bati sila nga tao, like dili sila mausab. So they focus on how they're punished in prison, but don't show how they might get better or become good people again. So this makes them seems like less humans, like they are just like criminal and not people with their own stories. Lastly, the broader social fear. These portrayals feed into broader societal fears of crime and deviance, making viewers more supportive of tough on crime policies and less inclined to consider reformative measures like rehabilitation. So, in this statement, it says that the way media shows inmates makes people more scared or of crime and less likely to want to change their lives. So, kung ang mga tao is makakita gani sila mga inmates, ang naon din nila is like dangerous sila or like kanang masama na sila nga tao. So, they're more likely to support harsh punishments and less likely to think about programs na makahelp nila nga much them to get better. Next slide. So we have impact on public perception, simplistic view of criminality. So media depictions reduce criminal behavior to personal failings, ignoring deeper systemic issues such as poverty, racism, and lack of education. So addressing ani nga issue kay pananglitan pod ang poverty or kapobrehon kay it can limit access man sa resources o opportunities nga nagpalisod sa mga individuals like makagawa sila gani gikan sa cycles of crime. And also sa racism pod, it also can lead to discriminatory practices that dili patas nga maka-affect sa certain nga communities, while ang lack of education mahimong makapugong pod sa kanang mga opportunities sa trabaho o kanang mga economic nga mobility. And next, support punitive policies. So these portrayals foster public support for harsh sentencing laws, mass incarceration, and a punitive justice system over rehabilitation. So ang paagi pod ani giportray pod ni siya nga ang crime and justice sa media usa ka influence gyud sa opinion sa public og policy. Like kung ang media maghatag og dako nga pagpagad gani, it can lead pod to a greater nga public support sa mga approaches like at the expense gani sa ilahang rehabilitation o restorative nga justice. And last kay racial bias. So media often stereotypes people of color, especially black and Latino men, reinforcing racialized narratives of criminality and contributing to societal and institutional biases. So ang media stereotypes pod it can have negative effects on communities like sa ilahang mga color sa ilang lawas or panit. Ano siya naka-affect po ni sa ilahang self-concept or self-esteem nga collective pod sa ilahang identity gi-adverse mo na siya ang mga pamaagi sa kanang racial bias. So that's all. Next slide.
Okay, so next topic is structural inequities. So first we have the ignored factors, which is media overlooks root causes of incarceration, poverty, trauma, mental health. So when we talk about incarceration, the media often misses the bigger picture. They don't discuss the underlying issues that lead people to commit crimes, such as the poverty, not having the enough money or opportunities, trauma, experiencing violence or hardship, then lastly, mental health, struggling with emotional or psychological issues. So instead that the media focuses on individual crimes, making it seem like people are just bad or criminals, this creates a false narrative and ignores the root causes. And next is reinforcement of biases. So normalization of the criminalization of marginalized communities. So this kind of reporting also perpetrates biases against marginalized communities like people of color, low income communities, or LGBTQ plus individuals. It reinforces harmful stereotypes and makes mass incarceration seem normal. So we need to change this narrative. So media should highlight systematic issues and root causes, show alternative solutions like community programs, and another of that is amplify marginalized voices, and lastly, promote accurate representations. So by doing so, we can have more informed public discussions, make better policy decisions, and reduce systemic inequalities. Since the reinforcement of biases refers to the normalization of criminalizing marginalized communities where groups like the people of color, low-income individuals, and the LGBTQ plus individuals are disproportionately portrayed as criminals, perpetrating biases and stigma. So this leads to increased discrimination. So next slide, please.
Comparison to other theories. George Gerbner's cultivation theory. So in his theory, it explores how long-term exposure to media, particularly television, shapes people's perceptions of reality. According to the theory, people who watch a lot of television start to see the world in ways that reflects what they see on TV, especially regarding violence, crime, and social norms. In short, Gardner's theory suggests that media exposure doesn't transform people. It gradually shapes their views, often in ways that make the real world seem more like what we see on TV. Chinese theory is what you see on EBK, mura siya based sa reality sa nahitabo sa kalibutan. On the other hand, this theory suggests that heavy TV viewing influenced people's perceptions of reality, leading them to believe the world is more violent and shaping their own views of social issues based on TV portrayals and regarding of real life affairs. Next, we have initial focus, discipline, and planning. In Discipline and Punish, Focus explains how society's way of controlling people has changed. Because in the past, punishment was harsh and public, like executions or torture. But now, control happens through discipline, through training people to behave in certain ways. Like this happens in schools, prisons, and even workplace. So sa una, ang ilang paagi sa mga criminals nga grabe nga ibuhat sa mga criminals like nakapatay baron is um they're going to be torture until mamatay or diretso execution. But now, he suggests the panopticon. A person where guards can watch prisoners at any time, but the prisoners never know when they're being watched. This makes prisoners behave as they're always being watched. So Foucault argues what modern society works the same way. We feel like we're being watched by cameras, rules, or society, so we act how we're expected to, without needing harsh punishment. So mga to siya yung paagi sa punishment para Para ang tao nga para ang kanang criminal is makarealize sa iyang mga nabuhat para possible nga matagag si chance other life. So next we have Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow. In The New Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander argues that the U.S. criminal justice system has created a new form of racial control, similar to the old Jim Crow laws that enforce segregation and racial discrimination. Like in the US, between the black and white people, mas nai-authority ang white people kaysa sa black people. She says that mass incarceration, especially the war on drugs, disproportionately targets black and white black and brown communities, leading to widespread discrimination even after people serve their time. So Alexander points out that once people are labeled as felons, they lose many basic rights, such as voting, housing, and employment opportunities. This creates permanent underclass, much like Jim Crow laws did in the past. Her key message is that mass incarceration functioned as a new system of racial control, keeping racial inequality alive under the guise of crime control. So in order to prevent that kind of act, she suggests that reform the criminal justice systems, restore rights for former felons, like pwede na sila makavote sa ilang rights, access to housing, employment, and education for people with criminal records. So above all, her main suggestion is to rethink the entire approach to crime and punishment, focusing on fairness and racial justice. So mo to siya sa naitabo sa US nga grabe ang racism between sa mga black people nga even though sa kanang bus nga masakay sila is grabe siya lang pag racist. So in order nga ma-prevent that kind of act, nagsuggest siya nga para ma-fair, para na fairness and racial justice po ang mga black people. So that's all my reporting. Next reporter, please.
Cultural and social context. The cultural and social context surrounding the media's portrayals of jail reveals how deeply embedded these defections are in reinforcing societal norms, particularly those to punishment and control. First is broader implication. The media plays a significant role in reinforcing punitive social norms. Defection of jails contribute to cultural acceptance, punishment over rehabilitation. The focus on control and punishment shapes a society that prioritizes discipline and authority. One of the key insights from Don Cecil work is that media does not simply reflect reality, it shapes our understanding. When the public is constantly exposed to images of jail that emphasizes chaos and the need for control, it reinforces punitive social norms. Gipakita sa mga ingani nga portrayal na katanggap-tanggap ra og normal ra nga parusahan ang usa ka tawo nga molabag sa batas tungod ani nagpabilin or napanatili nato nga ang usa ka kultura nga mas gipaboran ang parusa kaysa sa rehabilitasyon. Gipakita pud ani nga mas nga ang strikto nga way sa pagparusa kay makatarungan ra og kinahanglan jud. Next slide. Criminal justice system. The way jails are portrayed influence public opinion on crime, punishment, and justice. Policy decisions are affected by media portrayals, leading to increased support for harsh sentencing and incarceration. public attitude are more likely to favor punitive responses rather than understanding the systemic causes of crime. This media influence doesn't just affect individual perception but also public attitude and policy decision. When jails are depicted as violent and uncontrollable, it creates a fear-based narrative that encourages people to support harsher sentencing law, mass incarceration, and minimal reform efforts. The criminal justice system, in turn, often reflect these public sentiments. Politician and policymaker influenced by the societal fears push for tough on crime policy that prioritize punishment over addressing root causes like poverty or systemic racism. Next slide. Normalization of mass incarceration. Media contribute to entrenchment of mass incarceration by depicting it as the primary solution to crime. The portrayal of inmates as dangerous and irredeemable makes the public more accepting of long sentences and minimal reform efforts. This representation ignores systemic issues like poverty, racism, and mental health, focusing instead on individual criminality. The role of media in normalizing mass incarceration cannot be overstated through constant exposure to show that portray jails as chaotic environments where only extreme measure can maintain order. The public becomes desensitized to the realities of imprisonment. Kadalasan sa mga inmate kay gipagawas nga wala na sila pag-asa, violente og dili na magbago. Maunang dawaton na pud sa publiko nga dugay ang ilang sentensya ug kadaghan sa mga mapriso ug kakulangan sa mga pag-focus sa rehabilitation. That's all. Next reporter.
Potential solutions. So first we have shifting media narratives. Focus on systematic issues like inequality rehabilitation. So instead of media should highlight the underlying social economic or racial inequalities that has contribution to crime, by showing the positive outcomes of rehabilitation, like education and therapy programs. The media can challenge the idea of the punishment is the solution and to promote the compassionate reform-oriented views on criminal justice. So second, we have more balanced portrayals. It includes media that critiques the justice systems. A more balanced media would involve a showcasing content not only to highlight the experience of the individuals, but also to examine the broader justice system itself. This also encourages us, the viewers, to understand how the justice system may contribute to the problems that needs to address. Next is advocating reform. The media's potential to influence more human policies. Through media, this can influence public opinion and policymakers to adopt the human policies by highlighting injustice and promoting rehabilitation over punishment. Cecil emphasizes that the media's capacity to inform, to engage, and mobilize public opinion is the vital in advocating for reforms that promotes dignity, compassion, and effective solutions to social issues. Next slide, please. The conclusion. Don K's Cecil shows how televised images of jails shape public views on crime and punishment, often reinforcing racial and class biases. These media portrayals simplify complex issues and promote control and punishment over rehabilitation. It is important to critically engage with these narratives and advocate for more balanced depictions that can help foster a fairer, more just criminal justice system. Don K. Cecil highlights how television portrayals of jails impact to societal views about crime and punishments. It opens perpetuating racial and class stereotypes, These media representations tends to reduce the issues, focusing more on punishment and control than rehabilitation. It is important to engage with these portrayals and to advocate for more accurate, more balanced media coverage nga mag-promote of fairness and justice within the criminal justice system. That's all of our report. Thank you for listening.